Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the 2022 West Virginia Cybersecurity and Game Developers Expo. I am here with Heather Cole, who actually runs and helps the MonRiverGames, MonRiverGames.com. And she's going to talk to you about potentially some opportunities if you are interested in helping them out, but also showing some great games their studio is making and talking about the thriving community that you all have up there. Correct, Heather?
Yeah, sure.
Great. Well, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you and let you do your presentation here, and I'll be pulling up your videos as you need them.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. All right. So MonRiverGames. All right. So I am founder director of MonRiverGames. I'll go through the timeline here in a little bit, but more or less what this is a community, game support, game studio, game development, game design, in which we work together in order to produce games. Can you go ahead and roll the website video, please? I'll talk over it. So yeah, I don't see it yet. Should I be seeing it? Okay, there we go. All right, so I just figured that video would be easier to show you things. So you'll notice that we have an events page, we have a games page, so you can see what we've been working on. I'll go through that a little bit more as we go. We even have like a little shop page as well. I've been into game design and game development since about 2015. Your last speaker is a part of Whitethorn Studio, which funny short, kind of interlude there. Matthew White from that studio is the one who really got me into this. And I was up at Penn State with him when he was there, and then I moved down here to West Virginia, and I started this past fall. So it's just kind of like, again, a little overview of what you'd see. And that's about it for this one. All right, let's go on to slide 2. Okay. All right. So a little bit more about me. I teach for West Virginia University. That's why I came down here. So I'm down in Morgantown. I teach a program called, it's going to be called in the fall, Game and Interactive Design. Right now it's still called Interactive Design for Media. The whole point of the program, though, is to make interactive design objects. Sometimes that's in game form, but sometimes that's more in experimental, art house form. But I run the game side of this. Meanwhile, my colleague, Jeffrey Moser, he runs more of the sound and experimental art side of everything. You'll notice that there are like slide links here. I can provide these later so you guys can download them as you need to. And pretty much it just kind of shows you what the program does and, what we're doing. And again, we're making games. You start off from the beginning with me and you go on to Capstone, which is a part of the studio, actually. And can go on to the next slide. Okay. So mission of MonRiverGames. We are a voluntary organization formed to provide affordable professional and educational experiences within the game industry. We're specific to West Virginia and Southern PA just a little bit, but mostly West Virginia. We were formed with the intent, again, to just kind of organize us and to try to bring us together, those of us that really love games and making games, and just kind of get us all together for this. Just to kind of speak on the voluntary organization part, when we're thinking about voluntary organizations, again, you can think about like, it's a club for an adult, but you can think about it in a number of different ways, of course, too. And then when I say affordable, professional, and educational experiences within the game industry, there's definitely a gap in access when it comes to affordable professional and educational experiences. So what we're striving to do really is to be able to send our members to things like GDC, the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco, things like PAX, and then other conferences throughout the US and hopefully eventually internationally. So that's like the sole mission, is to just get people that are really passionate about games and about making them in West Virginia out into the world to show that passion. We're also doing portfolio reviews, game jams. We're starting more of those. Let's see, it's more or less a collaborative organization. Let's see. Sorry, I'm going off my list of things to talk about here. I'm an instructor, so sometimes I'll get a little off topic, but hopefully I'll stay with you. I think we have a Q&A at the end too that you guys can ask questions. And if anyone wants to step in too, feel free as I go. All right, so I talked about voluntary organization. The whole reason why I started this was more or less to support our mission of trying to support our current students. There's not much of an existing structure in place in West Virginia when it comes to being like, okay, student that is really good at game animation, you can go over to this studio and do game animation for them. That's not, it's the structure for that isn't there yet. And if it is, no one's told me about it yet. I'm learning about a few things today, which was fun. So one of the founding principles of the school that I went to was if something doesn't exist yet, then you have to build it. And this is our attempt to build it. And in the past year since I had this idea, I've really met a lot of people like in the area that are passionate about the same thing. So here we are building it. We can go on to the next slide. Okay, there we go. So again, like I said, idea came into play in March 2021 during the pandemic still. August 2021, I'll show you them here in a moment. We had our pilot group of members. So our first group of members, they're part of my capstone course in that interactive design for media class that I talked about earlier. So they're their major program. So it was our pilot group, first getting started. Some of them had worked on games before because they'd had me in the past, but some of them had never touched it. So for some of them, it was an introduction to game design as well. So that was a lot of fun. By November 2021, we were officially registered as a voluntary organization. I'm still working on our nonprofit status, but we are officially registered as a voluntary organization. December 2021, we had our first prototypes. Okay, really kind of simple, short, like maybe 5-minute experiences. And then we also held a pitch competition, more or less, because the way that we come up with ideas in this group is that we have at least one pitch day a semester for the public and about 3 just for us. And then people they pitch their ideas. And then at the end of that session, as a community, as a membership, we vote on the idea that we want to work on. And then we'll divide roles and tasks as we go for the next month until we have everything that we need. Usually what happens is that our art assets and our sound gets completely done. And then we have to keep on development for a very long time after that. So probably standard practice in a lot of other places too. And then we had our first kind of voting of awards. It used to be as part of this capstone, they would work in very small teams and not work as a whole classroom, as a whole, 15 people. So this was kind of a newer part of this as well. January 22, we had our second group and, our second bunch of pitches. We're still having this second group. I was able to take about, I think, 4 or 5 people from our first group to the Game Developers Conference, as well as a club that I help out with just a couple weeks ago. So that was great. We got to go. They got to really experience what it's like in the field and talk to people in the field. Because this wasn't something that they would have done prior. A lot of times people come in still and they're like, what's game design? What's game development? And we have to kind of guide them there. And it's great that they were able to do this and connect with other people, especially with pandemic and everything. Being able to be around other people and be social was a big deal. April 22, so we're in that month right now. We're coming out with our prototypes for this semester, and then one expanded prototype. And then in the summer, so starting May, in the summer, my intent is to have this entirely open, meaning if you live in West Virginia, Morgantown or other areas, it doesn't matter because it's mostly remote anyway. You can be a part of this. You can, develop games in the summer. You can sign up and be like, hey, I want to do some animation, or hey, I want to learn how to do sound or something like that. You don't have to be student or faculty or alum to be a part of this, you can be. But we're opening to the whole community during the summer so that we can really like drive that collaboration forward, especially now that we can see each other face to face when we can too. So you'll see some of that on our social media too. Let's see. All right, we can go on to slide 5. This was our pilot group of folks. You can see all of them. The ones on the left-hand side, 2 of them got to go to GDC, one more on the right side. We actually had some holdovers from this pilot group into this semester, and they kind of helped guide this next group of students. Let's go on to the next one. All right, so that very first group of students, I think we were highly ambitious, and I was very game jam focused. I love game jams, and I was listening to Katie right before us, and I'm like, oh, I had heard of the Godet Game Jam, but I was under the false impression that it was just once. So I was really excited to hear that it's every month, and you can kind of pop in and pop out. Actually, just joined a team today, so I will give it a try. So I'm also very passionate about game jams. I know this is where you get your experience. So that's the way we format this studio. The studio is more or less game jams, but they don't go small. We more or less get to pitch them, we get to start them, and then we get to keep developing them as we go. Because we're only about 9 months in, I predict that we probably won't have a solid polished prototype for probably another 2.5 years. But we have some good things that have started, and they're fun, nice ideas and prototypes that have started. So let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of these. Let's go ahead and play the video of Roscoe, and I'll talk while we're doing this. Okay, so this is Roscoe. Um, our developer on this is Joey Veda. He's actually one of our holdovers, so that he could teach this group of students Unity and C#, which is what this was made in. And he's graduating this semester, so if you're listening to this and you're hiring, hire Joey. But in all seriousness, he did a great job in getting this done. He had never really done things on this extent before. You can notice in this play video, I'm in trouble with that jump, but that's okay. The idea with this game was really just really simple. We're getting Roscoe home. This is the dog Roscoe. These birds are always trying to go after him, and then eventually gets home. So it's a very simple platformer. You can usually play through it in about 5 minutes, if that. And I ended it there. I didn't want to show every part of it. So we can pause the video at this point. Stop the video at this point. All right. So that one's Roscoe. Let's go take a look at Trooper Cooper. Okay. So the premise on this one is that they really, really wanted to make a game that is based on memory. So they're doing some research on Alzheimer's patients and how memory matching games can be really helpful for them. So that was the overall arching goal. It's probably one of the most complete projects out of like all of them from that semester. But it's just again short, maybe 3 to 5 minute playthrough. Um, there are obviously some glitches in both of these, but like when you're developing in a single semester, you can't always expect a good level of polish, which again is why I said, and maybe about 2 years or so, we'll have something that's really highly focused and developed. So that one was Trooper Cooper. Okay, we're gonna hold off on that one. You'll notice we have a bunch of these other ones, and they all have really great ideas as well. They didn't end up having as much of a solid prototype just for multiple reasons. So, like, for example, the developer was pretty stretched thin having all these projects because he ended up working on multiple projects. So that was a little bit difficult on him. Going forward, let's go ahead forward with our next group of students that I'm currently with. We made sure of a few changes. The first change was maybe we cut back on the number of pitches because that semester we had a pitch pretty much every 3 weeks. That's the reason why we ended up with 6 to 7 games. And only one of those games the whole studio worked together on. The rest were small team projects. So we decided going forward that it would be best to work as a whole studio on games. in which we vote and work on all together one project each pitch quarter. Our pitch quarters are usually every 4 weeks, at least during the semester. And then, we make what we can from that. If you move on to the next slide. Right, again. There we go. So this semester, what they've made are 3 games. And I think going forward, that's a good number to stick with. The rule of threes is helpful in many different ways, whether or not it's design or art or games. 3 is a good number for a semester. So this semester, they developed Meowgantown, Mugavon County, and Argonne. These are all still works in progress as prototypes. So I don't have much to show except for some of the ones that I recorded already. When it comes to completion, they're going to be mostly ready to go by the end of this month. And we're going to have another vote in which you can, play through, give us your feedback, what went wrong, what glitches you saw, and then, how we can improve in the future. We're going to do that at the end of this month. Everybody's welcome to participate. Well, we have our vote links up. We have a sample of Meowgantown that is the sample that I made. So using their assets, it's a sample that pretty much I developed, and I developed that through Construct primarily because I knew Construct. So I was able to kind of get together a prototype within 2 weeks versus the whole semester. Again, this isn't the final version. This is just using their assets. This is a prototype version. So you can see it's Morgantown, only it's Meowgantown. And you can see lots of references to Morgantown. Even Reed College's dog Omega is kind of referenced in there, which is fun. The PRT is here. Okay. And again, they all worked as a class on making assets. And most of our coders, pretty much the primary reason why the other version isn't quite working yet is because they just started learning Unity from scratch at the beginning of the semester. So, it's a work in progress. But this is fun. It gets to kind of show you what it's going to look like eventually, or at least close to it. Are you able to get the sound back on a little bit? Okay, there we go. I love this is like the final scene. And what I love about this scene is like when we get to the people that try to pet Clark too much, and you hear that, it kind of goes along with the music. I pretty much ended up that. I don't let you see the ending because I'd rather you play through to see the ending eventually. Okay. All right. Well, oh no, no, you can go to the end of this one. I cut off. I cut off in the video. Yeah. No, you're all right. See the disembodied hands coming up. I don't know if you heard that, but one of our sound designers was like, "You know what? I'm gonna record a line that says that's not a cat, it's a flurgan," which is great because, like, on that last scene, they're on High Street, as you know, is a very like party zone. So, it was great to have that variety of voices and having a whole classroom studio to be able to let the sound people be like, "Hey, can you do this voice for me?" And then they go down like the hall to our podcasting studio, and they go right there and record the voices, the scripts that they need. It's all great to be able to do that in one location. All right. Anyway, so moving on. Let's look at the promo video for Mugamon County. The idea for this one is that they're going to feature some coffee shops that gave them permission to get featured. And the idea is just simple. You're making drinks as a barista. They really wanted to just do something that would showcase the local coffee shops. And I believe it was Antiquity and spacing on the other name right now, but there was 2 coffee shops that agreed that, hey, we will be a part of this, which was fun. Again, in development, we'll have prototypes for you to play and test at the end of the month. Argon, like that one is just really, really new. So we don't really have much on that one yet. End of the month, though, again, it'll be there. Let's go ahead. Oh, okay. And then this one. So the one mentioned in the first pilot version, Purple House, it was made and it was a solid concept from then in our first version. But the idea of being able to have this studio is being able to expand on ideas and develop them more later. Because there's a problem when you are in, I guess, a student in academia. And that big problem is you have a semester to do a project. And everybody knows a semester is really, really hard to do one project. And, game jams are great and they're great experience. But again, it's hard to focus on that during the 6 days if you have 6 days. So the idea with it is that we are able to later expand upon it more. So we're going to keep going with this one. And we've got another update that we pushed out. I think it was last night, actually, I pushed out this update. You can go ahead and play the video for that, and I'll walk you through it. So this is the original version that the students made last semester, that our members made last semester. Simple HTML version game, hard-coded in HTML, meaning no software or anything. So all by hand, which is great. But I work with HTML, but not to that extent. So I was thinking about revising and getting more people involved in the summer, like we have a few people signed up. I switched over to Construct just because it's simpler to understand for many of us artist type. But I'm gonna have fun looking at Got It here for this next couple months. And this is all the first version. It's a lot of fun, just cute, like fantasy plants with weird combinations. All right, and now this is the expanded visuals, at least. With the expanded version, instead of 4 plants, we have about 25. So you can imagine the hash table we had to create in order to manage all these pathways. The box at the top isn't part of the design. It just happened when I was recording in Zoom for some reason. You notice really silly options like plutonium, gas, water, and hot sauce for our thirsty plant, and fertilizer, manure, mushroom fertilizer, and worms. Okay, and now we have a corpse flower. Those are actually, some of these are based on real plants that are just exaggerated. And corpse flower is a real plant. Over the summer, I have one member already that's volunteered to go ahead and start working on sound for this, so that's going to be fun. Okay, I can cross that one off. All right, let's go on to the next one. So we have some upcoming events. So I was talking about this earlier. So we're going to have a vote April 18th to the 26th on the prototypes that are published. It's just the 3 that we're voting on that they made this semester. Usually they get some sort of award at the end. What we're doing this time for the studio is we're taking them all out to lunch, and then we'll announce the awards there. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then you'll see it says MonRiverGames Summer 2022 edition. I have more information up on this on the MonRiverGames website. But the idea, again, is that it's open up to the community. So it's not just students. Students can be involved. But anyone that's passionate about game making that wants to, kind of be in a bigger environment in order to, improve their portfolio, get more things out there, vote on themes, pitch themes, all the fun stuff that we do. So let's see. Right, and Okay. So these are pretty much all of our links. So MonRiverGames.com, all of our socials. If you want more information about us, all you got to do is email this. Usually I see it, and then I can, kind of talk to you a little bit more. We have some merch, pretty much anything that we produce through the studio. Any kind of funding that we get from that, we put into our travel conference kind of fund. And then if you're producing it separately, that's fine too. Obviously, you can make your money off your game. That's totally cool. I completely understand that. But anything that goes directly through the site will obviously go into this like big group fund so that we can support professional development for, game creators in West Virginia. Um, do you have any questions so far? I feel like I've been talking a lot. So, are people on the stream? Anything from, which you would like to hear?
Yeah, I can definitely put out here to open it up to questions. I'll put it out on
Okay.
the stream. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Um, so Katie talked about with her game jam setup. They kind of have some rules so people know what they need to be to come in. When you're opening this up,
Yes.
um, well, I guess every game jam's different. So, like, what are the type of people you're looking for, or what skills are you expecting the people to bring in,
Okay.
so that people can be like, well, I can fit into category A, or I can fit into category B, and so the expectation you all would have in your structure for your
Mhm.
community based game jam.
So the idea is, they can fit into artists in pretty much any role. Like they can do character animation, environment work, background animation, set dressing. There's like 20 different things I can think of within art itself that they could fit in. If they're not so much into art, they could think about writing stories. So they could do dialogue creation. They could do general concept documents. If they're not so much into that, then we also have music and sound. They could dabble in. They can try to get their feet wet with that. And then obviously there's the whole development pathway, and there's multiple different ways in which we can explore that as well. We usually use Unity, but the club that I manage also uses Unreal, and I'm familiar with Unreal. And then also, HTML. I work with Construct a lot simply because it's what I'm most familiar with. But there's all these different ways to be involved. And when it comes to rules and structure, pretty much the way that it work, our first meeting will be a kind of our get to know you and our pitch meeting, so people can bring forward their ideas to that meeting. And then pretty much an agreement that um, if you have a game you want to see developed, then you have to also help others out. So you can't just be like, here's my game, I need this, this, and this for it, and then disappear. You have to be like, here's my game, but here's what I can do for others. So it's a collaborative, it's a co-op of sorts, only it's game design, game development focused. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I mean that way, like uh, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. It's a community, yeah, totally a
Yeah, it's
community
a
feel
community,
for how
it's a
things.
co-op, it's completely community run. Like I said, as a membership basis, everybody in the room that day, for the first membership or for the first meeting, um, gets to have a vote on that day as to what they want to start working on first.
Katie had a question
Yeah.
from Twitch where she was asking, as a community member, how are you recruiting folks outside of WVU? Because she just assumed originally that this was for WVU students and such. She didn't think you were opening it up to the community. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure this is one form of outreach for you to be
This
able to go
is
out
this
there and.
is exactly one form of outreach.
Mhm.
So our social medias, we're trying to outreach through there. If Katie has more recommendations, I would love to hear it. I'd actually love to have another conversation with her. I met Katie at Bitbridge, I believe, at the Halloween showcase, which is great. And then I saw Katie's name on this, and I was like, "That's great." And I'm like, "Oh, Whitethorn, I know them." So yeah, yes, definitely, definitely, Katie.
So yeah, I think this is great. Um, I know your structure. You said in academia, it gets difficult where you have potentially 16, 17, 15 weeks, however you have your structure.
Yeah.
You know, um, I know one thing we originally used to do here with when I first started the game developers program back in the day, we had two different classes that each student, kind of like a gaming one, gaming two, the students had to
Yeah.
take. And back then, we had everybody paper prototype and come out with their game. So if they couldn't explain it to us, then who else is going to explain it to us? And then basically the students in the class decided, they kind of voted on which ones they wanted to do, and then they broke into teams. And so
Nice.
the first semester was designing, picking the game halfway through, and then starting to develop the art assets, which kind of helped too because you didn't like scare them too much with programming. And then the second semester was, you're already in your teams, you've got some art assets. Now you're gonna like drive the game. You're gonna drive the concept. So um, I know in the game jam sense, you don't have to follow the rules of academia in that regard, but
It's part of
it
the
does.
reason for studio.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, but it also seems like what you were talking about earlier, where you're paring down now. You're finding people to get into teams and stuff. And so I think that's so useful because we would have students who would end up taking the gaming classes originally who wanted to be more of an artist and they wanted to be a coder. And it really worked out great that by the second semester, they could be like, I like your game idea. I'll help with the story and the drawings and stuff if
Mhm.
you figure out the code aspect.
That's
So
exactly what the whole program is actually about. So the
mhm.
IDM major, soon to be the GDIM major, what we do first is introduce them to a scattering of creative coding, and then we introduce them to game design concepts in another course, and then we have an intermediate game course, and then eventually they make their way to capstone. Which for me, when I teach it, it's this. But again, it's not exclusive to West Virginia students in Capstone. We're completely open for other people also being a part of it, and not just during the summer, during the school year too. If anyone wants to lend a hand, they can. Um, but it's really just getting off the ground, as you saw. But we're still coming up with some really fun things while we're getting it off the ground.
And I don't think I'd actually, you mentioned showing some stuff in Construct. I don't
Mhm.
think I had personally heard of Construct. So it looked more web based. Is that a gaming engine you can
Oh,
design that?
yeah, exactly. So, the big problem that I run in with Unity and game design is that it kills my students' computers. To put it frankly, like, they're struggling to make ends meet, and then we make them use Unity, and then things go haywire. So one solution that I found was game engines like Construct, and I'm going to check out Got It during the summer, and like today, and see how that will work. But what Contract lets them do is lets them build directly on their web server, and then prototype it out. So so we're able to get prototypes really quickly. And then the way that it gets coded is it works in very simple if-then statements. Like, for example, if I click a mouse, then it does this. So the logic base of it is really, really simplified, which is helpful because most of our students are more artsy and creative. We have probably a handful of students that have come in from computer science, simply for development, to be a part of the IDN major/minor instead of the artist part. And we're always welcoming them, but we don't have as many of them. So just finding these alternative programs that are not heavy on your computer is helpful.
That kind of gives me flashbacks to um,
Nice. I saw
uh,
Katie.
yeah,
Yes, I just downloaded actually. It's on my I was just gonna take a look at it, and I signed up
yeah.
to be part of a team today, so we'll see how that
The
goes.
whole if then situation kind of reminds me of event driven like Visual Basic.
Yeah,
That was a pretty good one for people to hop in on because they're like, oh, if I click a button, I want this to happen. And so that kind of was already how the real world worked. If I turn this light switch on, the light should come on. So
exactly,
that's a
and it's
that's a
really
cool idea.
helpful for continuing that logic-based train of thought that we start in our creative coding class, because our creative coding class is all Python. And that's if then statements sometimes, not always. But once we get to classes and event driven stuff, it's if then, but not until then. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you did say you are opening up this next go around to people all throughout West Virginia, and you said it was going to be this summer. Do you have an idea of actual dates?
So I think I put it out there. It's the end of May. I'd have to go double check my calendar, but I believe it's the last Friday in May, right before I have to go do a study abroad trip. So
Sure.
so yeah, I'm almost positive last Friday in May. We're gonna have the links up here soon, if we don't already have them.
So if people are watching this and they're thinking about, they're still on the fence about getting into game design, this is an upcoming event that they could join into, and
Exactly,
it
and no
it
pressure. They can just
yeah, it
things
wouldn't
that
be a
they're
very
comfortable with.
pressure laden situation. This will be kind of like, I can do this piece and you can do this piece, and
Mhm,
you can learn and be a part of it, and
exactly.
and see if you like it. You can dabble a little bit. So
Exactly. They can dabble without feeling stressed out on time or anything, because like it's pretty much all summer long, and then like we can keep continuing stuff in the fall if we want to. It kind of just depends on their passion really.
that is great.
Yeah.
Okay. And we tweeted out gdevelop.io. Oh, there goes my. Speaking of light switches and light switches turning on lights, they forget that I'm in here. Um,
Yep.
I see, I believe possibly Rob or Garrett. I'm going to pop you guys in here. Your mic is off, Rob, if you're speaking. But
That was me. I'm sorry. I was curious if either one of them had heard of GDevelop, and
She
um,
developed.
yeah, apparently it's a no-code game engine. I had a couple of students in the mobile app
Okay.
program that were interested in putting together some just a simple game as part of their student portfolio, and I had kind of directed them to this, and I was wondering if I had steered them wrong or if there were better
It's not
options
one that
out there.
I've heard of, but honestly, it's kind of like what we say in art. Whatever tool is a tool that works for you, whatever you can get things done on is the best tool. Like it doesn't it like at this point, it's not a big deal on Agent, I think. It's more of a big deal. Can you make a game? Can you finish a game?
Right.
So like I think that's our biggest stress because a lot of times people will start with a project and then they'll fall off of it. Either they lose interest or maybe they don't have someone to bounce things on and they come up against a wall.
Hmm.
And really, the job of the studio is to get them past that wall um, and to get them like experimenting if they want to experiment or just dig deep into that one specific niche that they want if they would prefer that too.
that's very, very cool. Well, Heather, I greatly appreciate you coming on here and talking about your all's initiative you have, and giving it another avenue to potential people who are wanting to dip their toes into game design. A way they can go in, like you said, to a non-stressed environment to see if they like it, and if they really like it, they can take the bigger dive and go into other game jams, and
Exactly.
as as Gary had said, that get them some training, and then potentially decide how much they want to, devote their life to this, and really
Exactly.
go whole hog. You don't have to go from 0 to 60. You can
You
slowly
can,
inch your
yeah,
way in. So
exactly. And
yeah,
that's the nice thing about having kind of a community to support you and try to build you up is exactly that.
Hey, Patrick, you know what I keep thinking about is that in West Virginia, um, maybe in other different states, but I feel like we have this pocket type thing. So we have Northern West Virginia or Morgantown, and then we have all these different things that are actually available to us right now, like with Gary still located here, and then with Katie and these different game jams going on, and then we have Mon River up north doing West Virginia, and then Southern PA. Like there's stuff available, and part of me is like, we've got to find a way to provide a better communication bridge so it's like we're more linked into, because maybe a lot of us are just finding out about all these different avenues, but
Yeah,
we're
I
all
was
kind of
listening to
working
everybody
towards the
today.
same thing. Yeah, and we shouldn't just be chatting like once a year at expos. Like there should be some type of open dialogue, because West Virginia is not traditionally known, as the IT bastion or game dev, but like there's a there's a big community here. It's just very separated and disparate.
We need more
Yeah.
meetups.
I wonder,
Yeah.
does someone already have a Discord server up and going that's West Virginia specific? Because I know we have BitBridge, which is great, And we do a lot of BitBridge things, but like a West Virginia one might also be a good idea at this point.
Yeah.
Well, we used to have a Discord actually for this expo that kind of when the COVID hit, it was we used to always have the conference here on site at Mount West, and it was amazing because that's where I met Katie, for example. And so we had people coming down from WVU, we had people coming over from EKU, Eastern Kentucky University. We had people coming as far as Indianapolis. It was amazing to see, and unfortunately, because of COVID, the last 3 years I've ran these all virtual so that they can still continue. But we have missed the ability to have an exhibitors hall where people can come in and show their stuff and talk about where they're from and kind of geek out about their love of game development and all that. And so, yeah, having some sort of discords for meetups, that type of thing would be useful. I know just because we were an Unreal Engine house around here. We had an Unreal User Group Huntington, UUGH, that you could go online and look at Unreal and find local ones in your area. And I feel the same thing's probably true with Unity. But I agree with you, Heather and Garrett, that there needs to be more talk amongst each other and a more centralized ability to see all this, because I feel like COVID kind of hit us all out to the four winds. That we did suddenly manage to be able to work from home, but then also we got more disconnected,
Yeah.
and now we need to start to kind of bring that bit back together. So it would be great to start to try to build that back up, and worst case to try to do it at the institution level. I know Marshall has a gaming program that's thriving. I know you all have a gaming program up there at WVU, and so maybe if anything, we can start those as the main rivers, and then try to like reach out to people with tributaries and try to slowly make it work that way.
Yeah, that would be great. Like maybe we can have like a follow-up meeting for this with just like the speakers. That would be fantastic. I would be down for that. I don't know if everybody else would, but
yeah, if anything, it'd be neat to be able to organize something like quarterly, potentially, just to be able to check in and have people talk about updates and that type of thing. So it'd be fantastic.
Okay.
Well, like I say, thank you so much for coming on and talking about your all's opportunities and what you all are doing and showing the amazing progress your students are doing. I always find it fascinating to be able to look at someone's work and be like, 6 months ago, this person was a game player, they were playing games, and now look where they're at. Because a lot of times I feel like people look at their own work and they're overly critical, but you gotta say, like, 6 months ago you had nothing, look what you have now. This is extraordinary. And it gets them in the passion of it, and then it just goes from there. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, it was great to come on, and I've been enjoying listening to everyone so far today, and I'll keep trying to as much as I can.
Well, we do have here in a little while at let me double check my schedule here, at 3:30 today. We're actually going to have 3 of our students here from MCTC kind of do like a bit of a post-mortem, talking about a game they've been working on and their perspective on game development. So that'll be at 3:30, and then later on at 5 o'clock, a former MCTC student wants to come and talk about a game they're releasing here, and we're going to talk about how they got there and the trials and tribulations of that. So everybody stick around for those, and we'll be back a little later here around 3:30. So thank you all.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Heather.
You're welcome. Bye.